Welcome to Sage Intacct Construction 2023 Release 4 highlights. Here's the list of the topics that we're going to cover. So to start, for more information on the review of 1099 processing, check out the description of this video for the link to the year-end checklist for Intacct, and that will get you some instruction on 1099s.
Now, let's have a look at the changes and enhancements made to Accounts Payable and Accounts Receivable module for Sage Intacct 2023 Release 4. Let's have a look first at the changes to Accounts Payable Pay Bills screen. So Accounts Payable Pay Bills, there's a new field introduced called Preferred Payment Method. This field is pulling information from vendor file, and it's for informational purposes only, but it does allow you to check what is the preferred method of payment set up for each individual vendor, and you can make your selections for payments accordingly. The next feature is improvements that are made to vendor approval process. Previously, importing additional information on vendor files, such as updates to vendor visibility or vendor account number entities, would not have triggered a vendor approval system. Now, with updates in R4, we can actually trigger vendor update process during the import of this additional information. Additional feature that's released in R4, it's now support for vendor approval through API. So if vendors are set up by ISV, solution provider, vendor approval system can be triggered that way as well. Moving on with enhancements made to Accounts Payable, Accounts Receivable, new features are introduced, or new filtering features are introduced for both Accounts Payable and Accounts Receivable aged reports. So when we bring vendor aging report, change has been made to vendor selection filters. Now we can do selective ranges of vendors. Previously, we can provide a range of vendors or individual vendor, which means that all vendors within range would have been selected. This time, we have option to add selective, out of order list of vendors or customers on AR side and make filtering more flexible that way. And lastly, on Accounts Payable topic, new field has been introduced to the vendor setup screen. Field where vendor can be designated as an individual. So there's a radio button, yes or no. And this particular feature, if you click on a question mark to open a help file, indicates that this is a security feature that's used for vendor payments powered by CSI. So it's basically a CIH payment that's powered by CSI. And if turned on, if the vendor is set up as individual, personal identifying information will be hidden during a data exchange.
In this next segment, we're going to talk about the new feature that's coming out in cash management called Bank Transactions Assist. And this again is for Sage Intacct 2023 R4 release. So just to recap again, if you want to find out more information or circle back on this new feature here, go right into the release notes at your homepage in Intacct, and you can hit read release notes. And you're going to be able to see all of the release notes, but the one specifically we're talking about now is down in cash management called Bank Transaction Assistant. And if you click on a new workflow, they provide a fantastic overview of the process and how it functions, and basically what we're going to go over today. And it does look like, in this case, if you want to take advantage of it, you may need to join the early adopter program, which you can do down here as well. What's really nice is they have a very visual chart here that you can look through the process, and we're going to go through this process today, and then you can get more information on it as well. So that's available for you. So what we're going to do is kind of go through a couple of the configuration items and take a step back. What this basically can do for you is this can allow you to automatically assign customer payments that have come in electronically from the bank feeds to the actual customers in your accounts receivable module, and then also apply payments to those invoices automatically, and also give you the ability to issue advances. If you haven't created the invoice yet, you can actually store them as advances in accounts receivable and then apply them later there to the invoices once they get created. So a couple things that you're going to need to do is, in general, if you're not using the bank feeds and you want to use bank feeds, you're going to need to make sure under subscriptions, and you're going to want to be a full admin to do this. Under admin, you're going to make sure in subscriptions that you have, if you scroll down near the bottom, the Sage Cloud Services, make sure you have that enabled. It's going to provide you with a message that says, hey, you might be charged for this. The bank feeds come with 200 bank feeds and no extra charge. So as long as you're not doing more than 200 bank feeds, you'll be fine. And you can configure, once you slide this over, you're going to want to wait for this configuration button. You may have to save and refresh. But once you have the configuration button, you're going to want to make sure you turn on enable bank feeds inside here. Okay. So once that's on, you're going to have the ability to get your bank transactions automatically integrated into Intacct, into cash management. Then the other thing you're going to need to do is in cash management, in your configuration under setup, there is going to be a button in the banking section called Enable Bank Transaction Assistant. And that's the new functionality that we're talking about today. So you want to make sure that's enabled as well. So once those two functions are set up in the system, you will notice in the setup and cash management that there should be a new reconciliation rule called assignment rules. And we'll jump into that in a second. As far as your last setup, if you are using bank feeds and you haven't turned on and signed into your online bank account yet, you need to do that inside your checking account. And if you go into your checking account, you'll see a tab called Banking Cloud. So you want to make sure you're connected and transactions are actually downloading for you. You need your login information and you'll need to sync up to your bank. But once that's done, you can see here I'm synced up to a live demo bank here, and we have some feeds from today that are connected. I'm all good, so I should be able to see transactions in the system. So let's take a quick look at those transactions. If I go into bank transactions here, you'll see a bunch of transactions that have come in the system, and there's different views, and you could establish your own views in the bank transaction feed. And so one view they do have is something called Cash In. And it shows you transactions that have come in that are deposits that have cash in to your bank account. And so this is where we're going to use for our demo today on how to do this bank transaction assistant. So what you're able to do is assign a transaction based on all or part of the description of that transaction to a particular customer. And then the system will remember that for next time and apply them automatically to the customers as they come in. You can either do this on the fly, or you can do it ahead of time, and that's where we go back into that setup, reconciliation rules, assignment rules. And you'll notice here I do have one already set up, and let's go ahead and go into it, and I'll click Edit. You can just click Add for a new one. But this one assignment rule says, okay, for this customer in accounts receivable, Tiny Smith, and this bank account, we're going to create assignment detail here, and it's going to be based on any transaction type equals to credit. And in the bank transaction description, it's going to contain this word, Smith Tiny, so it's going to look for that functionality. And you can go ahead and set that up ahead of time if you know, for example, that this description is always going to be in there. And actually, I do know, so let's go ahead and set one up. I do know that we have a customer called TriTech, and they're always going to have C115 in the description of their payments. So what we can do is we can come into here, go back to the list. I can hit Add, and I can pull up that customer, which is TriTech, from my customer list. And I can say it's either for all bank accounts or I can do a specific bank account. I'm going to give it an ID. I'm just going to call it TriTech, consistent with their customer. And we'll make it active. It automatically fills in the credit side for you because it knows it's for payments for customers. And now I'm going to say bank transaction. I know in the description, and we'll verify this later, contains or begins with, ends with, we're going to say contains C115. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit that and then click save. And that's going to create an assignment rule. Now you did notice in here there was a preview. So let's see if we do have any in here. Let's say preview here. And it doesn't show us anything at a time. So we'll wait and go ahead and see once we get in there. So you can set that up ahead of time. And so now if we go into cash management, all bank transactions, and you'll notice these are my unmatched transactions that have come in from my bank feed, and automatically it knows because this subscription here came in from the bank, it had C115 on it, it already assigned that transaction to the customer. So let's hit a sort here and let's see. So you can see there's my 2 from Tiny, and then there's my other ones from the TriTech system. So you can do that automatically ahead of time, and it's assigned those customers for you. Now, what you can also do is do it on the fly. So now you're in here looking around, for example, and I'm going to sort by description here. Let's try this way. Nope, let's go this way, sorry. And I'm just going to page through. I do know that we are charging Napoli Pizzeria for some maintenance, regular maintenance we do for them, and it's $66 a month. So I can see here they must have sent the payment in. And it looks like their payment's always going to have a C990001 on it. So let's do this. I'm going to copy that. And I could do it for all 3, or I can do it for just 1, but I can click on that line and you can hit this button here, assign to customer. So you can do it on the fly the first time. And once you do it, it knows it for the rest. So now it says, okay, well, the description for that line is there, and I'm going to say whenever this is in the description, in the mapping value, and you have a little help here on this too, and they go through just talking about the assignment rules, assign it to this customer. So I'm going to say it's going to be Napoli Pizzerias. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and check that, and I'm going to click save. And this is demo data. It says that it may not be saved, but it is saved. And then you'll notice up here, I assigned it and I created an assignment rule for you. Automatically, all of those now are assigned to Napoli. And if we go back into our assignment rules, you'll see I have a new assignment rule now for Napoli. Okay, so you can kind of add these on the fly as they come in as well. So the next step is to apply them to any outstanding payments automatically. So if we go over to accounts receivable, look at my invoices, I do have some invoices in here for this. You'll see one of these is already paid, and there's a couple invoices in the system for TriTech and Napoli, and they're outstanding. You can see I can apply payments here, but we do have some receivables, invoice 8, invoice 5, September and October. So if I go ahead, actually, let's do this. Let's leave that open and we'll duplicate here. And let's go back to cash management and look at my bank transactions. So now I can see what's assigned to who. I like to do a filter here. Now you can make your own views. So you can manage views that says, just show me customers that have been assigned or transactions that have been assigned. I'm just going to do a filter here quickly on the customer ID so you can see them all here. So I could do this however I want. I can come into here and say, all right, I want to assign these all at the same time, or I want to do one at a time. It's up to you. I'm just going to do it one at a time for simplicity. Let's say we got a payment from TriTech on 9/16. I'm going to check the box here, and you're going to say receive payments. And when you do that, it's going to take a look, and there's different methods to how you want to apply. Do you want to match to any open amount? Do you want to match to the oldest invoice first, the most recent, the largest amount? Or if you don't have an invoice in there, you can also issue an advance over an accounts receivable. So let's do the oldest invoice first. And then what you can do here is hit this preview payment application. And it will show you now right here that, okay, well, in that case, then for TriTech, I'm going to apply it to invoice 5. So if we take a look over here, it's going to, let's filter by customer. It's going to apply it to the oldest invoice because we told them to do that. And it's going to apply it to 9/1 invoice for us. That's great. That's the one we want to do. And then how did they pay it? And, if it's an ACH, it's most likely going to be what's called a record transfer. And you could put a payment memo on it if you want to. But let's just go ahead and hit post. And what will happen now is you successfully received one payment. You'll notice now there's only 4 left because our view is only showing unmatched transactions. And if we jump over to here, you'll also notice that if I do a refresh on this, that we have one of these have paid. And there's the payment. And if we want to go ahead and view it, we should be able to see that it's paid. And there's the EFT that it was paid with automatically in your system. And then there's a little register that you can run on that. And then you can see posting details. So that is pretty slick in the system, especially if you have a lot of small invoices, you want to apply these automatically. You can go ahead and do that in the system. So try it out. You can try it out on one customer if you want, but it's a pretty slick feature that's coming out in cash management for our R4 release. This is something that you thought was helpful. Please go ahead and, as always, like and subscribe, and we'll move on to the next topic for the releases. In this next topic for Sage Intacct 2023 R4, we're going to talk about the Sage Field Operations SFO enhancements that are going to be highlighted in this release. Unfortunately, I can't show the SFO R4 software, but we're going to go through some slides here and talk about some of the new features that will be in this release when it comes out. So there's 3 big areas that are enhanced in the Sage Service Field Operations SFO. One big area is flat rate pricing. We'll talk about that first. And also the ability to accept credit cards in the field through the Fortis payment integration. The technicians are now able to do this through their mobile apps. And then also there's going to be several enhancements inside that mobile app that we'll take a look and dig into more detail. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the big enhancements for SFO is the ability now to do flat rate pricing inside the solution. So now you're able to group up individual items, parts, labors, and build specific services at a specific price. So all inclusive. For example, you'll see some screenshots down here below where you can make a fan assembly service, and basically you have a flat rate pricing, and that could include multiple material items and multiple types of labor, and basically able to sell that and build that out all in one flat rate price. And then you can kind of see here how you can add a flat rate price onto an individual work order, and they can purchase that service, that assembly, and it'll add it to the work order. So that is a huge feature that we're all excited about and looking forward to, just to make the SFO module even stronger than before. The next area is a mobile app, and being able to, as a technician, as an employee in the field, being able to accept a credit card in the field and then actually submit that credit card for payment and get a successful transaction notification. So now you can see here on the mobile app, the employees, the technicians will have an opportunity to pop this up and actually fill in the credit card information from the customer and submit it. And basically the transaction will go through, which of course will then be available inside the office for recording payment on that service, which is an awesome, very, very handy feature while on the field to get that payment information taken care of. And then there's going to be some other enhancements made directly into the mobile app that you're going to notice. So one of the mobile app enhancements is the ability now for the technicians in the field to create quotes. So while they're out there, if there's something else that the customer wants pricing on, or wants to get scheduled for a service, they're going to have a new button here. You'll see it right here, add quote, and they'll be able to log that quote into the system. And now someone in the office can follow up with that for scheduling and pricing and all that good stuff, or present the quote to the customer at that time. Also, now the technicians are going to have the ability to get their part lists, their miscellaneous items available when they're in an area that doesn't necessarily have the best internet connection, or no internet connection for that matter. So they can go ahead and continue to log in their work, pick from these items, and then when they get in an area that has better service, it'll be able to sync up at that point. And along that same lines, with an internet connection, we are now going to be able to, in SFO, track employees' locations for punch list items. So we're going to actually be able to use the location services inside Sage Field Operations to track statuses or, arrival, where they are, when they started, when they stopped, all based on location, precise, or approximate. So those three enhancements within the mobile app make the SFO product even stronger than it was before. And as always, if you've found this information helpful, please like and subscribe, and we'll continue on to talk about more enhancements next in the Sage Intacct product.
Starting with the version 2023 Release 4, Sage Intacct has introduced quite significant change to the way how GL account structure is handled. Prior to this change, once you determine the length of the GL accounts and accounts are set up in the system, no changes were allowed. With the version R4, there's a new feature introduced where even after accounts are entered, saved, transactions are posted, we can change the length of the GL account. We can also renumber those accounts. This type of change can have a profound impact on your system, so before making any decisions or triggering any actions, please talk to your partner and discuss all options. In a Sage Intacct, GL accounts have two values basically. They have a record ID and they have an account ID. Record ID is unique identifier for each account, and this new change does not change record ID. That will remain the same. What the system is going to allow us to do is to change actual account number. So that number that was previously locked, we were not able to change length or number, is now available through a set of features released in R4. So there are a couple of prerequisites that need to be met before that type of change can happen. First of all, new security feature has been introduced in a system to allow access to that particular feature. So if you edit specific role and go to subscriptions, as usual, if new feature is introduced in Intacct, there's very likely new security feature that needs to be revisited in order to be able to access that particular area. So in this case, under subscriptions for the GL, if you go to permissions, on the bottom of the screen, there's a section now called account numbers that allows us to set a permission or access to changes to financial account numbers or statistical account numbers or both. So before you can start utilizing that feature, those security options need to be turned on. So that would be step 1. Step 2 is to go to Company, Set up Company, Accounting tab, click on Edit, and there's a now unlock primary account number length and sub-account number length field open. This is where increase in the size of the GL account field can be now made. We can increase this field to anywhere from 4 to 24 characters in Sage Intacct. Again, as mentioned before, this type of change can have a profound impact on the rest of your system. Account mapping, smart events, reports. So please discuss those features and options with your partner before proceeding with any kind of changes. So once change is made in this screen, now we will be able to go back to the GL, all general ledger accounts, and edit any of the accounts that you have on the list. Now, new feature, new hyperlink will be available now called Edit Primary and Sub-Account Numbers. this is a place where you can make changes to the account number. In my case, I did not increase size of the field, but should I have done that in step before, I would be able to enter those additional values here, additional characters to that GL account. So basically, as mentioned before, your record ID, which is behind the scene, remains the same, but the mask for the account number would be changed now by increasing numbers to whatever number you have set up in the previous steps. This feature is also now available through the imports. You could export your chart of accounts, making sure that you're exporting both record ID and account number fields, make changes, and make import back into the Sage. That would be probably a faster way of doing a global change. Any accounts that remain at the previous length will continue to function. But for instance, if account length changes, you increase the length and those accounts are not used in account groups, or those new accounts are directly mapped to their financial statements, obviously we're going to have a problem there. So again, for the third time during this video, I'm going to say it again. This change will have a profound impact on your system. It's a great feature, but please talk to your partner before making any decisions or any changes that way. There's one additional feature introduced for the GL, and it's available under configuration area, and it works hand in hand with locking of statutory reporting periods. So locking periods in a GL is an additional feature that has to be turned on. It's optional. Closing period is different from closing period, so not to be confused with closing period. So locking period is an additional layer of security available in a GL. So once that feature is turned on and enabled in a GL, now we have option to select how many periods in the future we can allow for entries to be posted. So if you set up at 2 years, any entries that are forward dated more than 2 years would not be accepted and error message will be thrown. So again, works hand in hand with a locking periods feature that needs to be turned on in a GL before you can activate this future posting maximum thresholds.
Now let's talk about the ICRW learning journey added to Sage Intacct 2023 R4. For those of you not familiar, ICRW stands for Interactive Custom Report Writer, and it's another one of those fantastic reporting tools available to you through Sage Intacct. Unlike the Financial Report Writer and the Custom Report Writer, ICRW allows you to use multiple queries and even custom SQL in order to build your report. That makes it a little bit more advanced and a little bit harder to use than some of the other tools. And this learning journey is just a great way to be able to learn to use that tool. And learning to use these tools internally is going to lead you to the most rewarding reporting experience in Sage Intacct that you can have. So to access the learning journey, you'll head to Help and Support, Help Center. Then you'll head to Reporting, Advanced Reports, Interactive Custom Report Writer, and finally click on the ICRW learning journey. Here you can find some links throughout the learning journey, as well as your articles and videos that make up the manual. In the first section here, Start, you'll also find links to the Sage University training, which is another fantastic tool to learn that ICRW.
Hi, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of Sage Construction Management. Sage Construction Management is a cloud-native project management system that has built-in collaboration for project team members within your company or project stakeholders that are external to your company via a built-in portal called TeamLink. Here's an example of what an RFI would look like for an external member. There is no charge for collaboration. It is just part of the system and built in as a feature. When you sign into Sage Construction Management, you get an alert screen showing you things that need your attention, as well as documents that have been routed to you for e-signing. The different areas of Sage Construction Management include a leads section where you can manage upcoming bids, invitation to bid, build estimates, collaborate with subs that are working with you on a project. So this is what a lead screen would look like. And you can see here we have estimates as well as RFIs that can be involved with that lead. When we bring up an estimate, we have full view of both cost and sell, as well as the ability to manage those bids that are participating on a project that you're bidding on. Once a lead becomes a project, you can move through and have access to additional functionality. Here's what a project screen looks like in Sage Construction Management. You'll notice that I have a list of favorites right here, ranging from drawings that I'm managing to the estimates to documents such as RFIs. Once we're running the project, daily logs, keeping track of safety, all the way through financial with prime contracts being schedule values, purchase orders, change orders, and subcontracts, change orders also. If I scroll down a little farther, you can see access to the full breadth of functionality that's available to you in Sage Construction Management, ranging from managing drawings and, of course, markups to them, to project contract administration, ranging from the overall cost estimate, changes to those, the prime contract schedule values, as well as items that can be taken care of in the field, time capture for both labor and equipment, correspondence such as RFIs, documentation such as daily field reports and such. And even when we're managing the project, we can use Sage Construction Management to manage things like the schedule. Built into Sage Construction Management is a scheduling tool very much like Microsoft Project. When we talk about things like subcontracts, change orders, purchase orders, the overall procurement, when you send out a document such as a subcontract or change order, there's a forms tool that lets you build these in Microsoft Word that are very, very easy to navigate and use. Included with Sage Construction Management is a mobile tool that allows you to access the functionality via your choice of mobile app, whether it is iOS or Android. And so this is just a quick peek at what the mobile app looks like. You can see here I have my same favorites on that 24/950 job. And if I scroll down further, I have access to whatever features my security profile gives me the ability to access. So Sage Construction Management is very comprehensive, cloud native, collaboration built in, and very competitively priced.
Now we're going to talk about advanced ownership consolidations. But before we talk about those, I want to talk about the different types of consolidations in Intacct. So you've got your core Sage Intacct way of consolidating. You've got global, domestic, advanced ownership consolidations, which is what I'm going to cover, and the management console consolidation. Now, this was formerly known as advanced consolidation. So don't mix up advanced ownership consolidations with the formerly known as advanced consolidation. So the core consolidation in Intacct that can be used, you can set up multi-entity in an elimination book and create your elimination entries on your own. So let's say you have a few companies and the eliminations are pretty minimal. You can use Sage Intacct on its own without purchasing Global, Domestic, Advanced, or Management Console. However, you don't get automation of elimination entries. With advanced ownership consolidations, you're going to get more features, which I'm going to go into here in a second, that help you consolidate multi-level and various different, more complex consolidations. Okay. And the management console consolidation, the last one on here, this is something that's rarely used. And that was the one that was formerly known as advanced consolidation. Okay, so that was used more for consolidating and reporting on financial data across companies with heterogeneous chart of accounts. So if you have a different chart of accounts, you do some manual mapping with that console. Okay, so it's not very commonly used. So don't get that confused with this new advanced ownership consolidation. So what are advanced ownership consolidations and why would you use them? If you have different ownership interests that are changing, for example, if you've got multiple investors coming in and out of your company, you might want to have different percentages month by month of ownership. This would be a good use case to use the advanced ownership. If you've got non-controlling interest entities, and if you've got multiple levels, okay, of ownership. So if you've got a tier looking something like this, where you've got development holding company, you've got some different ownership interests at different levels. And even more than that, if you have the ownership interest changing and your partnerships and your owners changing as well throughout the year. So what does it look like in Intacct? Let's jump over there. I'm not going to go into all of the setup on the advanced ownership consolidation, but I want to point out a couple things. So company subscriptions, you're going to notice a change here in your subscriptions. So it used to say global consolidation here. Now it's just going to say consolidation. Okay. And then the management console consolidation that I was talking about as well, that is down here separately listed. Okay. For that multiple different chart of accounts kind of scenario. Okay. Rarely used the management console. So up here in the consolidation one, you click configure. And you're going to see, if you turn on multiple currency, you're going to see different buttons here. One will say global instead of domestic here. But you pick between, if you're single currency, you're going to pick between domestic and advanced ownership consolidation. Okay, so if you've got multiple tiers, you've got different ownership structures changing, more than likely you're going to want this advanced ownership consolidation feature here. Okay, so if you click domestic, you can see the simpler layout that it's demonstrating there. Okay, now I'm just going to cover a couple high-level areas here in the system, in the consolidation, once that's turned on. Now, remember, you need to go through a more formal setup. We will have another webinar that goes through the entire setup of advanced ownership consolidations. Okay, so just a couple of things here. There's an organization view. So you can use this to see your layout of your different tiers, your different companies. Okay. You also have now a setup of an ownership structure. Okay, so this is where I'm going to set up my different levels. So I might have, a parent on top of these two. I might have a different parent on top of these, and then I might have a parent on top of all of them. Okay, so this is where you set up your ownership structure and the names of those. So I'm going to give it my holding company or my parent a name here. I'm going to set up my structure period here. Add new period. And you're going to give it some percentage ownership. You make your parent whoever you'd like. Let's say it's this one. We've got our subsidiaries here. And you can make it, different ownership percentages each month, even if you want. Because remember, I'm doing a period. And you can do your non-controlling interest and your different setup here for your investment in subsidiary accounts and such. Okay. So there's a whole setup with this, but the point of this is that you have different months. You can have different ownership percentage changes. You can do multi-tier and multi-level. And when you run your consolidation, your eliminations will appropriately treat in the non-controlling interest accounts as well. Okay. So, and I can do my consolidation feature here and run my consolidation, those different ownership structure setups and your different allocations with your percentages will appropriately treat those minority interest and your non-controlling interest eliminations. Now, something to note, this is the consolidation method. This is not the equity method. They do have that roadmap to get the equity method in place, but this is the consolidation method of accounting. And then once you run your consolidation feature here, then you can run your financial reports just like you would in the domestic and global, so it looks something like this when you're done. Okay, so you've got your entities, your different roll-ups, you'd have your different holding companies, your eliminations that would automatically be created, and your total, for example, consolidating balance sheet there. Okay. So just a high level overview of the advanced ownership consolidations. But again, look for a webinar in later November, early December on the actual setup of the advanced ownership consolidation. So check out our bug or YouTube channel. So bug.bangerninc.com, or check out our YouTube channel for that webinar. And now we're going to cover receiving single payments for multiple customers. This feature is useful when you receive a single payment but need to apply the payment to invoices from different customers. To turn this on, you need to go to Accounts Receivable Configuration and scroll down to Enable Single Payments for Multiple Customers and hit Save. Okay, so now we need to go set up the payment sequence. So you might have to do this in your setup there. I already have set one up, but AR payments, you could do something like that to set that up. We're going to hit Save up here. Okay, so now let's navigate over to the cash receipts area. This screen will pop up. You'll see one customer invoices, parent and child, or multiple. If you pick multiple here and hit show, you're going to get a list now of all customers, and you can then apply payments to the various invoices. We'll hit add and close here. And now you can do your normal cash receipt process.
As always, if you've found this information helpful, please like and subscribe.